3 months ago, I was working a 9-to-5 corporate job. My creative life of my writing, content, even my self-published kids book was squeezed into the margins. And then I lost my job. Before March, my life looked a little like this. I was a full-time brand marketing strategist at an ad agency. I was a director of strategy in a leadership and management position, so I had 2 direct reports. And so my 9-to-5 job took up a lot of my time. In 2022, I also started doing social media on the side, and this was not paid for about a year and a half. I was just doing it for fun as a hobby. I shared the books I was reading on my Instagram, and it was around that time in 2023 that I actually got monetized on social media, a very, very small amount. Enough for groceries for the month, but still, nonetheless, I was excited. And eventually I started sharing my book writing process until I ultimately published my children's book in 2023, The Hesitant Hedgehog, that I really squeezed into the margins of my 9-to-5 job. My husband illustrated the book and I wrote it, and we did everything ourselves, including laying out the book, the marketing, the actual publication process, the ISBN numbers, barcodes, everything. And I had a big dream to become a full-time author one day. But despite all of the effort I put into self-publishing that first book, I had no real time to chase that dream. So if you are a burnt-out professional craving creativity, same. And so things were going pretty well, and I felt like I have a paycheck coming in, I can still focus on my creative work, just, after work or like on the weekends. It's not so bad, but I never really felt fulfilled. And that's the key difference. I felt like everything I was doing at my 9-to-5 was just treading water. And I didn't feel like I was growing anymore, even though I had built up a reputation in the field of advertising. I had built up my skills and I felt really confident in my skill set. It just wasn't something that I could see myself doing long term. Or I should clarify and say I could see myself doing it longer term. So for context, I'm 31. I could see myself doing advertising until I was maybe 40. And I thought I had a good 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, maybe more at this job. But then I was let go and everything changed. In March of this year, I got laid off, and instead of running back to safety and immediately getting another full-time advertising job, I decided to take the leap. I got back up on my feet, and I spent some time in Scotland, where I did a DIY writing retreat. And I had never solo traveled in my life. I've never even lived alone, let alone traveling internationally to somewhere I've never been, all by myself. And at the time, my husband couldn't get off work. We were planning to go together, but then he was like, why don't you just go, and you have to finish your book anyway. You can go and do a DIY writing retreat. I booked a middle seat on a plane, the cheapest flight I could find, carry-on only, and I headed to Scotland. Then I spent 2 weeks writing and getting inspiration for my book, which is actually set in a fantastical version of medieval Scotland. And I stayed at my lovely friend Kate's flat for 2 weeks while she was out of town. During this time, I also built a barista bar business where I have a pop-up coffee cart and I'll bring my espresso machine, and I would go to wedding mornings where the bride and the bridesmaids and groomsmen are getting ready and make custom lattes for them. As part of this leap, I also started this YouTube channel where I want to get better at talking on camera and being comfortable doing this sort of thing. So this has been so fun, and I absolutely love to spend time here on YouTube. I also started Zhao Design Studio with my husband, so it's our own 2-person agency where we've teamed up to offer strategic and design creative services. I also, in general, took my social media seriously for the first time, and also writing as well. It had always been a hobby until I published a book, and then I was selling copies of the book, which technically, if you have a product and you're selling it, that's really a business. So I took writing seriously for the first time probably in my life. It just felt like, if not now, when? When am I going to have the chance to do this? When am I going to have that opportunity? So that leads us to the experiment. I'm using these next 6 months, June through November, as an experiment. I want to know what happens when you go all in. Is it possible to build a whole creative career? And this experiment very well may fail. I want to be clear about that. I want to document on here on YouTube what works, what didn't work, Where did I fail? Where did I improve? And let's see where we end up at the end of these 6 months. I've seen a lot of other creators talk about changing your life in 6 months or reinventing yourself or your career in 6 months, in a year, and I've always wondered if it worked. I got this idea originally from Chiara Evola. I'll put her channel up here and down in the description. And I've seen a few spin-offs on YouTube about changing your life in 6 months, writer edition or author edition. And I found this really interesting. So now I want to try it for myself, and I want to bring you along with me as I try to change my life in 6 months. Now, uprooting your whole entire life and changing it in 6 months feels like a lot. So what I like to do is something that feels like it's biting off more than I can chew, is breaking it down into smaller chunks and smaller goals so that it feels a little bit more attainable. I'll break it down into 4 categories of goals, all leading to the ultimate goal, which is becoming a full-time author and not going back to corporate life. So if you want to start with me, I'm going to start June 1st and end in November, and you can join along. I'm going to have all the rules in the description of this video. Let's get into my 4 goal categories for the next 6 months. Number 1, I have writer and author goals. I would like to finish the first draft of my novel. I would say I don't need 6 months to do this because I'm tracking closely to being maybe 1 or 2 chapters away from completing my first draft. So I also have a goal of starting draft 2 in these next 6 months. And the way that I'm going to be tracking this to make it measurable is I have a writing calendar where every day I have to hit 500 words, and then I can check off that day on my calendar. There's this local New Orleans author named Jami Attenberg, and she invented the challenge 1000 Days of Summer. And this is the idea that you'd write 1000 words every single day, all summer long. And I absolutely love this idea. I'm gonna be joining in my own way with 500 words. If I can hit 1000, great. But since it's a 6-month challenge, I think 500 words a day is really my sweet spot, and just in terms of staying consistent and making sure I actually do it. So if you'd like to join in this word count goal and you're a writer as well, try to hit 1000 words and join Jami Attenberg's challenge. I'm gonna link that. And to be honest, New Orleans, where I live, is really humid and hot in the summer. It's kind of like our down season. So I think the summer is the perfect time to do a challenge like this. Under my writer and author goals, I'd also like to prep and revise my draft for beta readers near the end of this challenge, so around November. And because this wouldn't be a challenge without some big, hairy, audacious goal, and I really want to challenge myself to think bigger and dream bigger this year, I'm also going to set down the goal of having a literary agent by the end of this year. My goal is to be traditionally published with my next book and really make a career out of this. So the first step for me is getting that literary agent and querying. Okay, so that was category 1 around writing and authorship. So the second category I'm calling my creative career goals, not corporate, parentheses. So these are all the things I'm doing to not have to go back to that corporate grind and really help my creative career take off. So for YouTube, I have the goal of posting once every single week. I think this will be made a little bit easier by doing this challenge where I'm going to be posting updates every single 2 weeks on how I'm doing with the challenge and where I've done well, where I've failed. And so I think that will help keep me accountable. So it's sort of a win-win type of goal. I post on YouTube, and then it also helps with my goal of staying on track with this challenge. Now with Zhao Design Studio, my agency that I started with my husband, for this goal, I would like to build out a shop. So my husband created hats last year, and then we also have our book as well that he illustrated and that I wrote. And we have a few other ideas percolating of either digital or physical products that we want to make together. And so we thought, why not have a shop where people can get them? I also want to get between 1 and 3 new client leads for Zhao Design Studio. In my career in advertising, I have had the opportunity to network so much, and I have a good community now and network of folks. So I really want to tap into that, find some potential leads for freelancing and projects that my husband and I can do. The third goal within this bucket is around my barista bar. I would like to do 1 event per month and see where it leads. So essentially I've done 2 events so far. One was a wedding where I made coffees in the morning for the brides and her bridesmaids getting ready. And it was really special to hang out with them and just brew coffees and chat and they loved my matcha cold foam recipes. So I make a lavender oat milk matcha, iced matcha. And the lavender foam is just so aesthetic and pretty. And I had fun customizing it with the bride because she loved lavender as well. And I've been making different cold foams with different food-safe food dyes. And it's been really fun, and I kind of am thinking that's my thing. Like if I continue to do this barista bar, I can specialize in these pretty cold foams and matchas, and of course, great tasting lattes as well. But you know, aesthetics are important to me, so cold foams are where it's at. Anyway, I also did a pop-up. I definitely found that I would rather do an event where I charge based on the amount of people. So it's kind of a set price. It's like there's a minimum, and all of this information, I'll link it down below in case you're interested in maybe starting something similar of your own. But I definitely found that the pop-up was a lot less lucrative than doing an event. So I want to do one event per month and just see where this barista bar thing leads. I don't expect it to be this super lucrative small business, but I also just find it really fun, and I can bring some of my creativity and personality into a real life event or experience, and I found that really creatively fulfilling. Okay, lastly, I want to build my Read with Mare brand presence. So I have a Substack blog that I post on once a week. I also have Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them. I've slowly been building out all the different platforms since 2022. Right now, my focus in terms of social platforms is definitely YouTube and my blog on Substack. Just knowing where I'm trying to go as an author, I think YouTube and blogs, you know, writing, of course, are probably the most creatively fulfilling for me. Instagram has changed so much. I mean, RIP the old Instagram. It's very visually focused. I prefer sharing ideas like this, talking to the camera, or writing. So it's not as much in line with what I like to do. Anyway, this is a whole tangent, but my goal is to build my Read with Mare brand across the different platforms. Third is physical and wellness goals. I have been on a bit of a hair journey. A little story time, when I was in middle school, I was the most self-conscious about my hair. And I used to do this like slicked back ponytail every day because I just like hated the way my hair looked down. I felt like I had all these like frizzies on the top of my scalp, and I just absolutely was so self-conscious about my hair and how I looked. And then over the years, I just didn't care as much. It's funny, I feel like when you hit your 30s, you're just like, why should I care what anyone thinks about that? And over the years, I've learned to work with my hair and not fight it as much, and also just stop caring what other people think about little things like that. Why would I even waste the energy and time caring about something like that? But recently, my hair has changed a lot, and I'm getting those same sort of like frizzies in my hair that I haven't had since literally middle school. So I think my hair just really needs hydration, to be honest, and I've put it through a lot of different changing climates. Like when I was in Scotland, it was super dry. Now I'm back in New Orleans and it's humid, it's hot, it's summer. So with my hair, I want to do a hair mask once a week just to get it healthy again, and then also do some oil on the roots to hopefully help with this frizz problem. Oil on the roots and the mask on the ends. Are there any hair people out there? Let me know if that would help or if you have any tips. I also don't use heat on my hair. I have a Dyson and I use heat protectant, but also Dyson Airwraps aren't supposed to damage your hair. The jury's out on that. Don't know. Maybe that's what's causing some of this. And I also use scrunchies that are made out of silk. So let me know if you have any tips on hair, and I'd love to incorporate them in a future video. I would also like to exfoliate more, and exfoliate my face in particular. I used to be on a good routine with this where I'd use an AHA cleanser, and I sort of fell off the wagon, and I just noticed when I do exfoliate my face once a week or once every 2 weeks that my skin is so much better. So I want to work on my skincare routine in this challenge. I'd also like to get back to planning my workouts again. So I work out 4 to 5 times a week, usually on the weekdays. I noticed that I I am more consistent, and it makes my life easier when I plan these things out in advance rather than getting to the day and being like, oh, what workout am I gonna do today? I wish it was just all sort of planned out for me. I'd also like to do a sleep schedule experiment. I go to bed at a different time every night and wake up at a different time every morning. I wonder if it might help me get more sleep and just feel better and more energetic if I were to have a bedtime and a wake up time every day. And then just as like a long-term sort of filter on this, the reason I have these physical wellness goals are so that I can show up for my creative best self every single day. Number 4 of this challenge are more lifestyle, nourishment type of goals. I really would like to get back to my weekly meal prep. I used to do this on Sundays, and I found that my week went so much smoother when I planned those meals out in advance. We're sensing a theme here. Planning workouts, planning bedtimes, planning what I'm gonna do that day, planning meals. It sounds confining, but I actually find that I love it, especially as a creative person, because I don't have to think about my workout. I don't have to think about what I'm eating. All I have to think about is the words on the page. So I want to do weekly meal prep. I also would really like to try out this new grocery store, or new to me. It's a Latino grocery store that's in my neighborhood, and my friend said that they have really inexpensive and ripe produce. So I'd love to explore some new local grocery shops. I usually will go to Costco and Trader Joe's, and then I'll fill in at Whole Foods occasionally. But when I used to go to Aldi, I found so many better deals, and I felt like the quality of the food was just as good. So I'm gonna experiment a bit with my grocery store of choice. Also, now that I'm fun employed, I find that rest and relaxation is actually more important than ever, because you can get so caught up in trying to find your next job and your job search and feeling like you're not doing enough because you're unemployed. So I would really like to have one nourishing reset day every Sunday. One thing I've noticed during this time is that I actually can find myself working every single day. And the work is fun, right? It's like making a video, editing the video, working on my book, going to some networking events for local authors, and working on Jiao Design Studio, which my husband and I built together. It's so fun, and like trying to make these creative pursuits happen. But what ends up happening is that I'm working 7 days a week on these things. And when I had a corporate job, it was 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, I rested. So I want to reserve Sunday to be my reset day and really take time for myself. And then the last goal within this category is to make my home feel like a creative, cozy studio. And this is a fun one. I really want to focus on cozy routines. I want to get back into like lighting a candle, making my tea, setting up my desk and studio so that it's cozy. I have the right music playing, the right lighting. I kind of got away from that. That's something I used to do when writing, and it just helped me get in the zone. And I found it really important to have that right environment for where you're working. Also, my house is feeling like really cluttered, and I need to just go through my closet, go through a couple spaces in my home. So if that's something of interest to you, comment down below if you'd like to see that in a different video. Okay, and then I know I said 4 things, but I totally forgot about the 5th category of how I want to change my life in 6 months, and that is mindset and learning. We can't forget about learning. We can't forget about feeding our brains. This is super important. I would like to start a weekly journaling practice, and ideally I'd put that into my morning routine that I'm creating. And yeah, I think that's one of the goals under mindset here. It's like trying a different morning routine for more creative clarity. So journaling, I think, is a good way to get to that. Even reading a passage from something like the Daily Stoic in the morning. That's something I've been experimenting with, but more inconsistently. So I'd like to try a new morning routine and see if that can help my creativity. On that note, I'd also like to read one process book a month. So writing process, like Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic about the writing process, or The Elements of Style, all about grammar. Things that will help feed my brain and make me a better writer. And then lastly, and this is really one of the most important, it seems like an afterthought, but I probably should start with this every morning, and that's meditate or visualize what that dream creative life looks like. I want to sit down every single day, look at my goals, and really visualize what that version of me is that's already living that dream. So this is episode 1 of Changing Your Life in 6 Months. I'll be sharing updates every 2 weeks on what's working, what's not, and I'll be sharing updates along the way. If you're craving your own creative freedom, hit subscribe and come along for the ride with me. I'm really curious to see if this works. Like, where will I be by November if I really stick to this? Will I be in a better place? Can you actually change your life in 6 months? I don't know the answer. I really would like to find out with a live audience, apparently. So if you would like to do this challenge too, I'm going to write up exactly all the rules that I'm following and the ways that you can adapt it for your creative life. And I'll put that all in the description. Let's crush our word count goals. Let's get the literary agent. Let's get the book deal. Let's do it this year, 2025. This is your year. I'll see you in 2 weeks for an update of how the challenge is going for me. Bye, guys.